you're not going to get the unique experience of an actor, the unique experience of a writer, that particular quirkiness or idiosyncratic thing, approach to a moment, the way a line is said.
I was talking to somebody close to you, and back in the day, you had I guess a kind of a barter type relationship with Microsoft, where the gist of it was they gave you kind of a peek behind the scenes there in exchange for kind of having a peek behind the scenes in your operation.
This was the early days of Silicon Valley trying to understand Hollywood and how it worked and how we thought and how we innovated.
In what ways did that play into Avatar?
Very little. I mean, I don't think I learned much, or much came from the Microsoft relationship that had anything to do with how we solved problems on Avatar. I think that, my time at Digital Domain and founding Digital Domain at a critical point in history when CG was a new thing and just taking off, and all of the iterative steps in between had a lot more to do with that. We went into Avatar in 2005 with a general idea of how to do it. And a lot of specifics that had to be worked out, literally years of R&D. And the best way to describe it is we took a prototype weapon to a war, and it was glitchy, it was difficult, but it was a very steep learning curve, and it was a great learning curve.
You hired a chair of a plant and botany science department to come up with scientific descriptions for plants that you had made up. You hired a linguist for this made-up language, and you guys are discussing points of grammar. Like, why was that important to you?
Well, there's the world-building part of it, which is basically fiction and fantasy taken to the extreme, and down to creating Latin names for plants that are made up, animals that are made up. Right? Because it's the kind of detail that fans like. They like to think that world has some true existence someplace, and it's a place they can go, right? But it doesn't matter you make up a plant with a cool, fancy Latin name. You have to make that plant look real. And there has to be a full forest full of them, and you have to be able to travel through it and brush against it and move it, and it has to light up in a certain way, and so the interactions between the characters and the environment become part of it. And that, to me, that goes beyond world building into actual technique, actual execution, and we were dealing with brand new ideas. We were very much doing what I set out to do in '95 when I wrote it. It just seemed like it was too big to handle back then. There were too many new things that had to be created. In 2005, when we started, we felt we were within striking distance, but we had to create a lot of new tools.
Which is what you enjoyed.
The fact that it was all new and nobody else was doing it was kind of intoxicating and kind of scary. But if I'm not doing something that scares me a little bit, I don't feel I'm at using my full potential.
How does scary come out in you or affect you?
I don't know, it's just exciting, it's just fun, it's challenging. So it's knowing the ways it could all fall apart, and the way you fail is your technology doesn't work, or it's too cumbersome, or you can't make your deadlines. And the best innovation happens in a production environment because you've got a deadline. So you're going to stride faster, you're going to take more risks, you're going to be more intuitive, and you learn from where you fail or where you don't achieve all your goals.
Take me to kind of Tokyo. You're in front of Sony executives having a conversation about 3D cameras.
We've had a great relationship with Sony for now going on 25 years. They'll come in with their engineering team, and we'll make a presentation and say, these are the requirements we'd like for you to modify an existing camera product so that we can incorporate it into a 3D system. And then they would either say, we can't do that, or for the most part, they always tried to meet our requirement. And we created some long-standing partnerships several times over the years. The most recent one was taking the Sony Venice camera and spinning out what they productized as Rialto, which was used on Top Gun 2, but we had requested that they separate the sensor head of the camera from the electronics body of the camera and give it to us as a separate part so that we could integrate that into our 3D rigs and keep all the electronics in the backfield. And that actually allowed us to create a lightweight handheld system that I could use, because I operate the camera myself, except for Steadicam. I love to operate. It gets me close to the actors, puts me in the game instead of sitting over at Video Village, which I don't like to do if I don't have to.
Technology and AI. John Landau once said, I think what he has is the skill as a writer to write stories without regard to what's possible technologically. He understands the tech side and how to push people. He doesn't always necessarily have the answer himself, but he can say, I think you could figure this out.
Yeah, it's a question of knowing how to bridge the gap from where you're standing to where you need to be. Now, you threw AI into that, and it's probably not well understood. We actually don't use AI on Avatar to date. Generative AI does not play a role at all. Some machine learning algorithms have been used over the years, but machine learning is different. It's not prompt-based. It's not text-to-video-based. It doesn't generate a finished image. ML has been used for 30 years to generate algorithms for flocking behavior of bats and things like that. And so that's just been around. But in terms of AI, that all the kind of uproar is about now, we have not historically used that on the Avatar films.
In your opinion, the impact of generative AI on filmmaking will be what?
I think we have to be very cautious about AI. We have to put some hard and fast rules in place around its use. And it also has the potential to lower costs and improve workflows in VFX. I'm not interested in putting in a text prompt and getting a final image. A lot of people are doing that. I think it's the wrong way to approach the matter, because it should all start with performance. The second you take the actors out of the loop, in my mind, you're not really making a film anymore.
Do you think it will happen on the biggest scale?
I don't think you can get to something that would be commercially successful that way, because what you're going to get is mediocrity. You're not going to get the unique experience of an actor, the unique experience of a writer, that particular quirkiness or idiosyncratic thing, approach to a moment, the way a line is said, because you're taking everything that's ever been done, putting it in as training data, and then blending it and then getting a result that is distilled from that. It's by nature going to be mediocre, not unique. So I think that the actor's process, in my mind, and certainly what I intend to do, is to always make it performance-based. See, people don't understand performance capture is not technical from an acting perspective. It gets all of the technical aspects of filmmaking out of the way for the actor and for me as the director at that phase. I take everything that has to do with cinematography, all the coverage, all the lens selection, all the lighting angles, all the cranes and dolly moves and steadicams and all that, takes it all right out of the acting process and sticks it as a downstream, call it post-production process. So that when I'm there with the actors, we're just doing acting. We're just doing pure performance. But people dismiss it as a sort of a second-class thing, like it's like a voice part in an an animation film. It's exactly the opposite.
You met Mark Zuckerberg recently at MetaConnect. But in what ways is the Meta partnership important to you?
The Meta partnership is about opening up stereoscopic content via their head-mounted displays, which people call AR, VR, whatever. Glasses, goggles, whatever you want to call it. They call them HMDs, head-mounted displays. They've got a new generation coming out that I can't say much about, but it's pretty spectacular. And we're looking at that becoming a potential entirely new streaming business model. Doesn't mean that it has to be VR where you can look all around, or VR where you're gaming. It can just be passive entertainment, like in your wall-mounted display, your big 75-inch TV, whatever. That's how you're consuming streaming now. That's how you're consuming your sports. What if it was in 3D? And what if it had cinema-grade quality 3D? And what if it was with you wherever you went? I'm taking a bet with Meta that that's going to be a new market for 3D. And maybe that will inspire theater owners to step up, because the thing that's really been dampening the acceptance of 3D really since its inception is light levels in the theaters. The technology exists, Dolby Vision and IMAX 3D, the technology exists to have bright 3D, but it's not widespread. And so when the average person goes to see a 3D movie, it's darker than it should be. Well, it's up to the theater owners to make the capital investment to get these light levels up using laser projection. Because right now they're on 15-year-old, 17-year-old technology. It's like, what industry can survive on 15-year-old technology? Obviously, we're in a slump in ticket sales right now. We've got to, reboost the theatrical marketplace. Maybe the occasional film like Avatar can help, but that's not the answer. I can't make these damn things fast enough. Nobody can. We need a flood of stereoscopic content, and we need premium display. And the premium display requires laser projection.